Okay, here we go for practice 10A. Have both of the JPEGs for this practice open, so you've got the guitar and the guy. And we need to copy the guitar over to the guy, so I'm going to select everything by Command A and then Command C to copy. I'm going to click on the tab for the other image up here and then Command V to paste. If it gives you a profile mismatch, just say OK. So now we can see this guitar is a little too big, so I'm going to resize it by pushing Command T for transform and holding down my shift so that I can get this down about to the size that I want it. Now I want this to be about up by his head. So once I've made that transform, I push return to finalize it. Now we need to make a transition from this image to that image that's smooth, and the way we're going to do that, instead of erasing away, we're going to add a layer mask. So to add a layer mask to this guitar layer, click the Add Layer Mask button. It will add a white layer mask, and remember, with layer masks, white reveals, black conceals. So right now it's all white, it's all revealed of this layer. So we need to make a gradient of black to white where we want this to disappear. So the black area will disappear and the white area will be left. So grab your gradient tool, which is G. You should have already watched the gradient tutorial. Set the colors black to the foreground, white to back, and then in your gradient options, click once on that little bit and choose the first one, which will be foreground to background solid, and click OK. And you want to make sure that we've got a linear gradient picked and the mode set to normal and the opacity at 100%. Okay? Now that we have that, I make sure I'm on my my adjustment layer, my layer mask. I don't know why that left me. My layer mask, and I know I'm active because it's got these little tiny marks around the corners. And then out here, click and drag. Now remember, wherever you start clicking and dragging is where that color is going to begin. So I'm going to begin somewhere past the line of that guitar image and then go into the guitar quite a ways and let go. And there we have it. That's a very simple transition from one to the other. Now I'd like a little more of this guy to show, so I can paint further into this layer mask. So I'm going to grab my brush tool and make it nice and big and fuzzy. That looks about right. And I want to hide more of this guitar. So to conceal more of the guitar, I'm going to use black. Make sure I'm still on the layer mask, and then just paint where I want this guy to show through and adjust my brush as I need to. Maybe up here so that his head's not disappearing into it. So that looks pretty cool. If you ever want to see what your adjustment layer looks like, just hold down Option and click on it. That's what you've actually painted. And then you can click at any time on the thumbnail of the layer and it will go reveal again. So I'm actually off that layer mask now. I've made this the active part of my layer by clicking on the thumbnail. So this looks pretty good. I would actually like to make this an even smoother transition by having some of this guitar actually be black and white. So we're going to add one more layer. This one's going to be an adjustment layer, so you need to go to Window, make sure your Adjustments panel is open, and click on the one that looks like the gradient tool. So it's a rectangle going black to white. Mine is set up to pretty much automatically do a perfect black and white. If it looks like this, which does happen quite often. You just need to push the reverse button in the adjustment layer. So now that I've done that, my adjustment layer is kind of hiding everything, or the properties, so I'm going to double click this tab to make it go away again and bring back my layers. So here I've just added an adjustment layer, which is something you should remember from previous lessons. We're going to do the same thing on this adjustment layer, that we want to actually hide the adjustment layer for the part of the guitar that we want to be color. And I'm going to do the same thing with the gradient. So I'm going to grab my gradient. It's still set to the black to white. I want to conceal this part of the gradient. So I want that to go away. So I'm going to click where I want my color to start turning into gray, and I'm going to go from right to left this time. So from there over. And you can see a little bit of that. Maybe I'd like a little bit more black and white, so I'm going to make that transition this way. And this time I'm going to drag kind of at a diagonal to maybe match that up to the lines on the guitar a bit. A little closer, maybe try it again. There we go. That looks pretty good. And that's why we set pretty much any time I'm doing a gradient on a layer mask, I like to have it set the foreground to background solid so that I can keep making that adjustment. And that's pretty much it. That looks good. Looking at this, if you want to do a final tweak, if I turn the layer off and on, you can see his face actually gets darker. So maybe I need to grab my black paintbrush and with, again, a soft fuzzy brush, hide the part of the layer mask, that adjustment layer that's covering his face, so he doesn't get all dark. So you can see over here on my layer mask that change happening, and if I want to look at it, I can click Option and click on the layer mask. And then if I click on it again, holding down Option, it goes back to normal view mode. So once you've got that all set up, this is all you need to do. Save me a JPEG, so save as, which is Command-Shift-S, and wherever you're saving it, save it as a JPEG format, and this will be P10A-your name.